Israeli President Isaac Herzog lashes out at Hamas as more hostages are traded for Palestinian detainees.
It's like a casino for families. None of us know who's next.
He's also critical of Canada.
We were offended by the comments of Prime Minister Trudeau.
With the ceasefire about to expire and criticism from many countries over the number of civilian deaths in Gaza, we wanted to get a direct response from Israel. President Herzog, thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you, Ian.
As of right now, Mr. President, how do you feel about the way that the hostage release has been proceeding?
It's an emotional roller coaster. Unfortunately, every round of release and every step that was agreed with Hamas has been violated by Hamas. But at the end of it, in each day, another group of hostages was released. Older grandparents, grandmothers, or younger babies or children were released, and also some employees that came to work and study in Israel from Thailand and Philippines. It's a huge emotional challenge because we are seeing the loved ones arrive and meet their family relatives where we don't really know anything about their mental situation, about their medical situation, and Hamas treads on the emotions of the families and of course on the entire nation and perhaps the world by not enabling the Red Cross even to meet or see any of the hostages throughout this period.
So it remains a very difficult, very emotional situation. I think a lot of people around the world are wondering.
Yeah, at the end of every day, they're supposed to give us the list for the next day, and it stays confidential. So it's like a casino for families. None of us know who's next, who they're going to release next. It's just a crazy situation. And remember, we still have about 200 hostages still in the hands of Hamas.
So I think people around the world are very interested in the answer to this question. What do you think the likelihood is that the current ceasefire will continue?
I don't know. I'm doubtful because it is clear that we must remove Hamas from leading and being able to employ terror against us from the Gaza Strip. That will change the equation. That will change dramatically the direction. It will enable Palestinians and Israelis to look into a different horizon. So long as Hamas is there, where they took Gaza by a coup d'etat. After Israel withdrew in 2005, they took the Gaza in a coup d'etat in 2007, fully directed by Iran. And since then, it's a dictatorship, extremely anti-liberal, and what they're doing to LGBTQ or any other different person than the ordinary, according to their belief, is horrendous. It's torture, it's jail, it's of course death sentence, and so forth and so on. And that is why the way they treat women or treat people of other beliefs or gender is unbelievably cruel. And we've seen this cruelty on the 7th of October, where they went into Israel in a major attack, violating the international border and chopping and cutting and burning and torturing and raping and then abducting innocent civilians.
Mr. President, the atrocities of Hamas aside, and it is clear that it was responsible for atrocities on October the 7th, a lot of civilians in Gaza have been caught in the middle of this war between Israel and Hamas. And there has been a deep concern around the world, including from many world leaders, including many of whom are supporters of Israel. And for example, here in Canada, our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, called on the government of Israel to exercise maximum restraint in its military operations in Gaza. This is a quote, "The killing of women and children, of babies, this has to stop." What's your response?
We were offended by the comments of Prime Minister Trudeau because I spoke myself with Prime Minister Trudeau just a week before. Prime Minister Trudeau spoke to me about the enabling the exit of Canadian civilians who were in Gaza, and Israel has done its best and made it a priority And of course, it was offensive because we care about the citizens and the civilians in Gaza. We truly care about the humanitarian effort. This is a war which is a war on behalf of humanity against evil forces who don't want to see not only any Jew, they don't want to see any Christian. They want all of us out of here. And the next thing, they want Europe out of there as well. And then the United States and Canada are definitely on their list. One has to read this ideology of jihad to understand what we're facing. We're facing an empire of evil. And we care about civilians, so we, according to international law, we alert them, we tell them, we call them, we send them leaflets by the millions. We text message and we tell them, please move out of your premises, because out of your premises, missiles were launched against us, terror operations came out of your premises, from your houses, from your shops, from your mosques. An entire war machine was launched against the people of Israel, actually against the entire Middle East that is seeking peace. And this is the real war we're at.
There are concerns, though, about the proportionality between what Israel is trying to achieve militarily in Gaza and the toll on civilians, including children. The UN Secretary General has described the level of death and destruction in Gaza as unprecedented and unparalleled. So maybe I'll finish with this. If hostilities resume, if the war between Israel and Hamas resumes after this ceasefire, is there anything, should there be anything, that Israel will do to reduce the number of civilian casualties?
We are doing it all the time. We are alerting. We've opened humanitarian corridors. We employed humanitarian pauses hours and hours every day. We have called and we've aided people to go to a safe zone. We're actually calling on the United Nations and all other nations to enable this safe zone, which has been built, and to enable the Gazan citizens to go there. Once we enter the area, we make sure that, all terror infrastructure, which is above and beneath. Beneath, there's a huge terror infrastructure, the biggest in the world by billions of dollars, including, I must say, Western countries, taxpayers' money, including Canadian taxpayers' money, which went for the well-being of Gazan citizens and the infrastructure in Gaza, but they money laundered it. They took some of the money for their own purposes, and they built an enormous war machine, monstrosity. The monstrosity we saw on the 7th of October has been unraveled by our forces. We'll do whatever it takes to enable us to get rid of this threat so that the threat will not apply anymore in the region, so that the region and the people of Gaza and the Palestinians and the Israelis will be able to look into a different horizon.
But President Herzog, I guess the point is, despite what you would describe as all the measures that Israel has taken to reduce civilian deaths, the number of civilian deaths to this point has been, as I've said, deeply troubling, whether it's from the United Nations perspective, the Red Cross, or many countries around the world. So is there anything that will change going forward that will reduce the number of civilian deaths?
So I give you a direct reply. First of all, some of the data we're not sure is correct. It's Hamas data. They distort the data all the time. Secondly, a lot of casualties came from Hamas fire itself. Hamas broke down the electricity system and the water system. Thirdly, believe me, every Palestinian who is hurt, it breaks my heart. I care about the fate of Palestinians. We all care about the fate of Palestinians. They're our neighbors. They're where, the people who were burnt, chopped and killed and abducted on the borderline were the biggest supporters of peace in Israel. They had special funds in each kibbutz to assist the people of Gaza. They would volunteer for their well-being and taking them to hospitals. We've opened up the entire border for tens of thousands of Gazans to work in Israel. And what did they do? They gathered information, gave it to Hamas, and which was used against us in this horrendous attack. This is the dilemma we're at. If you have the right to defend yourself, then you go in and fight and uproot the enemy, which is in civilian premises. And believe me, I don't know any Canadian who has in his living room missiles that go 200 kilometers or even 1 kilometer. This is preposterous and outrageous. And unfortunately, it was forced upon us by a ruthless enemy, and that's what we are fighting.
President Herzog, we will continue at CBC to cover this story, to hear different voices, to verify information, and we certainly appreciate hearing your perspective on this today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And you can see more of CBC News coverage of the Israel-Hamas war on our website, video, audio, and articles, including a wide variety of perspectives about the conflict and its impact. A Canadian professor once accused of unwanted touching has been fired by a different institution.
We call it pass the garbage, one individual moving from one organization to another because there's no trail.
Why the university may not have known about his past. CBC News uncovers the secret past of a prominent Christian scholar just fired from a Moncton university.
I just felt super uncomfortable.
We've learned his previous school had investigated similar allegations.
We call it pass the garbage, one individual moving from one organization to another because there's no trail.
Here's investigative reporter Katie Nicholson to break down the case of John Stackhouse Jr. and a pattern of behavior that was kept under wraps.
Courtney Lutz said she had to be strategic about what she wore to class.
Sweatpants, hoodies.
What did you hope wearing all this would do?
Draw less attention.
Lutz is a graduate of Crandall University.
Crandall University is Eastern Canada's leading Christian liberal arts university.
She's also among the current and former students whose stories fueled an anonymous Instagram account,
So I was Jessica in the Instagram.
mostly calling out the behavior of one professor. In Lutz's case, she says he constantly commented on how she looked.
I just felt super uncomfortable. I was anxiety driven. He commented on the clothing that I was wearing and asked if I dressed up for him. I never wanted to attend these classes because I was scared to get called out. Crandall professors stated that I would not pass the class.
That professor's behavior was so off-putting,
I wanted to keep track of when these things were happening.
Indira Trousdale started documenting it alongside her class notes.
Why do you have to describe how I look fetching or something like that? I don't really want my older male professor imagining me in different outfits. It's a little uncomfortable.
That professor
How are you today, Dr. Stackhouse?
Very well, Seth. Nice to visit with you.
celebrated Christian theologian John Stackhouse Jr.
Evangelicals are people who believe that God's given us something important to do.
This theology professor
A regular CBC pundit, from a new pope
There might be actually hope for those who want to see the church change.
I'm very happy.
to the Dalai Lama's visit to Canada.
He's the serious spiritual guy who's not a Christian.
I wrote a book about 10 years ago.
And an author of numerous books, including one on feminism in Christianity. But on Wednesday night, after a 6-month investigation prompted by those social media posts, Crandall University issued a blistering report that revealed another side of the professor. The report itself doesn't name Stackhouse, but CBC News has identified him as the faculty member, one whose classroom jokes or stories constituted sexual harassment, whose behavior bordered on abuse of authority, and whose antics detrimentally affected the learning environment. The investigator, after viewing more than 100 pages of inappropriate emails sent by the professor to a student, concluded it was a classic case of grooming. Crandall terminated Stackhouse within a week of receiving the final report. It turns out it wasn't the first time he'd faced such allegations.
Not a single female that I've spoken to about that has been surprised.
From 1998 to 2015, Stackhouse taught here in Vancouver.
All of us knew that if there was...
Abigail Harmon knew Stackhouse at Regent, first as a student, then as a work colleague.
His interactions with women were sometimes a little bit too loose and overly familiar and more personal. Sometimes it would feel like it would cross a line into an understanding that he was maybe interested in you or attracted to you, or that he wanted something from you.
When you hear he's under investigation for some of the same issues at another university, what goes through your mind when you hear that?
I was not at all surprised. I would assume that someone who was not held accountable for his actions was going to simply continue the same misconduct at a different institution.
In the Crandall report, the investigator asked the professor if there had ever been a sexual harassment complaint made against him at his previous institution. His reply, according to the report, "I do not see how it's in my interest to answer that question." Multiple sources told us Regent College investigated Stackhouse's conduct with female students and staff back in 2014. We also reviewed documents from that time which reveal a similar pattern of alleged behavior and at least one instance of unwanted touching that ultimately led to his departure. CBC News has also learned there was a settlement agreement between Stackhouse and Regent, the terms of which were to be kept secret by both parties through a non-disclosure agreement. And so when it hired Stackhouse, it appears Crandall didn't know about his past.
If that was apparent before, why did it continue to Crandall?
It's just continuous, and these patterns, like it hasn't changed.
We call it pass the garbage, one individual moving from one organization to another because there's no trail.
Liz LeClaire is with Can't Buy My Silence, an international movement dedicated to ending the misuse of non-disclosure agreements, or NDAs, especially when it comes to silencing victims.
If nothing is reported publicly, if there is nothing allowed to be online, if there's no trail of information, it's really difficult for people to figure out if someone's a problematic individual.
CBC News repeatedly asked Regent College for an interview to address many questions, including whether it disclosed Stackhouse's past to his new potential employer. In a public statement, Regent College said it was disturbed and saddened by allegations against Professor John Stackhouse, but that it couldn't discuss past employees because of privacy laws.
Regent's public statement is honestly pathetic. There's nothing good or noble or true about it. It doesn't take responsibility. As an alumnus of Regent, I'm frankly embarrassed.
Michael Buttrey is currently a PhD student in ethics at the University of Toronto. He thinks his alma mater needs to step up.
Regent's decision-making falls far below the standards we should expect of any institution, but especially a Christian one.
Across the country, another Christian school, a very different approach.
I would like to just quote a scripture passage to you, really. It says in Micah chapter 8, "And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God." And I think it's important that we are open and honest about everything that we do.
Sheila Cummings is Crandall's former board chair. She helped oversee the investigation.
Would it have been easier to just try to sweep this under the carpet? Perhaps, but it was not what was right and honest.
As for John Stackhouse, so far he's not responded to our many requests for an interview or comment on these matters.
Some provinces are working on legislation to ban the use of NDAs in cases of sexual misconduct unless the victim asks for the agreement. In PEI, it is already the law. Coming up, a playful pod of orcas putting on a show.
I was just kind of like, holding my breath, trying to keep the camera steady.
The dazzling display of breaching is next in our moment. Well, this incredible sight captured just off the coast of Galiano Island in British Columbia by a guy who was out on his daily walk, which he almost canceled. He noticed the pod of orcas playfully breaching. He started recording, and that video has been impressing so many people, even the most skilled whale watchers. Tonight, the majesty of these marine mammals is our moment.
I was kind of walking along, and then I got to the top of the hill and I just heard the sound of the whales. So I went to try to see what I could see and try to film it. And it was just amazing how at first they're just kind of milling around, and then I noticed that a couple of them started slapping their tails. you know, it was just such an amazing sound to hear that. And then they just started popping up one after another, which is really kind of rare to see. And not only that, but to actually be filming it at the same time is kind of what you dream for. So yeah, I was just kind of like, you know, holding my breath, trying to like, you know, keep the camera steady and like, and capture it. Everything kind of lined up for me at this perfect moment. Orcas are such a symbol of beauty and wildness, but then to see them just having fun, you know, is quite a remarkable thing.
If you've ever seen any whales breaching, there is something magical about it. Orcas even more so, and then to have that many looking as if they are doing it in a happy way, like it is incredible. Unfortunately, orcas, the resident population of orcas are endangered, but the number of transient orcas who are moving from one place to another through the Sailor Sea, as it's called, sightings are just ahead of what they normally would be this time of year. So hopefully that's a good sign for that population. Thanks for being with us. You can watch anytime, anywhere on the free CBC News app and subscribe to the National's YouTube channel. I'm Ian Hanomansing in Vancouver. Good night.